Good evening and welcome to another episode of Unstoppable Overcomers. And I'm your host, Dorothy Odell, for this evening. Before we bring on our incredible guest, Dawn Hill, I just want to give a shout out to today's sponsor of the show, Cast Magic. If you are a content creator, you really need to check this out. Here, you can get your free 7-day trial using this link right here. I'm telling you, it has saved me hours of trying to figure things out and creating content, and it just has been a godsend. With that, I would love to bring to the screen Miss Dawn Hill. Welcome to the show.
Hey guys, how are you? I checked out that Cast Magic. It looks pretty cool.
It is freaking amazing. You know, as somebody, if you are a podcaster or if you are even a coach,
Right.
it is absolutely amazing. Like, it takes your content, it creates more coaching, more lessons for you. It creates homework for your people. If you're,
That's awesome.
if you're a coach, it's just like, holy crap.
I did. I sent it to 2 of my friends that podcast after I looked at it because I'm like, you guys probably need this, like, for real.
Yeah, absolutely. You need to get it. Anyways, thanks for the shout out for that. And thanks for sharing.
Yeah, it was worth it. I mean, when you posted this morning on your post, I was like, what is that? I've never heard of that. And I was like, I was pretty impressed.
Yeah, you know what? I've been doing this for 3 years. Coming up in May is our 3-year anniversary. And I'm telling you,
Wow.
I
I
know,
remember
right?
when you started this,
I
when you were
know.
talking about it, right after you
I-
read the book, right?
After I wrote the book, and then I started, well, because I was networking and everybody was like, they felt the same way. They felt alone in circumstances and felt that, they were going through life alone. And that's not what I ever wanted for anybody.
Right.
So that's why we started the show. And, here we are 3 years later.
Awesome.
We're on live 4 platforms. We're on audio on Spotify and iHeartRadio, and we're on Roku now too. So
Yeah.
we've
So
been
you're
on
like
Roku.
international and big time and all that stuff.
I am. Yes, it's funny. It's funny you said that because I had somebody. I was just following up with her the other day. She goes, I turned on my Roku station or my Roku, and I saw you, and I started screaming, and her husband come running into the room, and she says, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" He goes, "I know her. I know her." And I said, "Well, the best part, Judith, is your episode is on the channel, so go find it." And
Right.
so her eyes just went big. So yeah, anybody who is on here is as a guest, your content is up on our Roku channel as well. So go check us out. Unstoppable Overcomers. Thank you so much. And I know, let's turn it over here to Dawn. For those of you that are just tuning in now for the very first time and haven't seen Dawn on a couple of our other episodes, Dawn, share a little bit about who you are.
Okay. First of all, I am just honored to be back on with Dorothy because she and I just kind of hit it off a while back, and we just kind of have some similarities, and we kind of trying to see life the same way and help other people. So that's kind of where I came from. I came from a toxic background as a kid, brought it into my marriage, taught it to my kids, did all the stuff you shouldn't do. And then God kind of reset me, and about 5 years ago, I guess now, he literally reset me. He gave me a fresh marriage, which was my old marriage, but we had separated and got back together. He gave me a new heart for both my family and me, and just to really serve people. And I thought I had been doing that God's way, but for a year and a half, he literally benched me, and I learned how to do it God's way, how to be a mom and a wife. And when he told me that, I told him, dude, you're late to the party. Like, I've already been doing this. And he was like, yeah, no, you're going to have to sit down. Like, this is not working out. So, and then I lost a bunch of weight and transformed my health. And that was about the time, in the middle of that is where this story comes into play, because my mom passed away and one of my kids was in some trouble in 2016. And that's when kind of my life tumbled. And we kind of started to put it back together in 2019. So about 5 years ago.
Wow. It's funny. God uses every circumstance under the sun to get us to, conform to what he has for our life.
Yeah.
And I know, it's funny because I think the more shitstorms you weather, the more he chisels away at you is how I look at it.
Yeah.
Poetic poetically, of course, So tonight, though, you were like, Dorothy, I really need to let people know and be aware of some certain things that
Yeah.
are going around with the housing and real estate and investing and things like that. So share with us your story on that.
All right. So when I started this, like I said, mom passed away. She owned her house or she was paying on it. So we were renting. So it made sense to me. I was never financially smart. Let me preface by saying if you could be a financial idiot, if there was a book out there, my picture's probably in it. I didn't grow up knowing about finances. I grew up in survival mode. My husband didn't know about finances. So we came together and didn't do anything right. So when mom passed, we still didn't have our finances together by any means. So her house was assumable, is what we were told. So that meant we should have been able to move here, assume the loan, make the payments, go on down the road. My brother was on board with it. We started all of the estate probate, sorry, at that time. And I did most of it on my own with just some guidance from an attorney, and it was going well. About right before the pandemic started, they sold the company that had the house, sold it to a new company. I guess mortgage companies do that periodically. And the new company wouldn't take our payments. They said they didn't know who I was. And I'd already proved all that to the old company. But here we are, literally like right smack at the beginning of the pandemic where everything's closed. Like our courthouse was closed. We weren't supposed to go outside. Remember those days?
Mm-hmm.
And this company's telling me I can't make my payments. And I'm like, well, that's fabulous. What do you want me to do about this house? And then they're telling me, anyway, so we get farther into that. I finally prove who I am. Well, then it's behind. And I wasn't in a position to bring it current. But I was like, look, I just want to assume it anyway. So once I assume it, they're going to restart the loan. That's what I was doing with the old mortgage company. And the new mortgage company's like, how can you assume it? It has a bankruptcy on it. And I'm like, what? What bankruptcy? What are you talking about? So for digging into that and finding out that my mom did file a bankruptcy, and she had told us that she reassumed the house, which means it would still be hers, just make the payments, whatever. So I get a hold of the attorney. This is one of those things you guys need to be so careful about with your parents. And he says, how old was your mom? And I'm like, well, she was in her 60s. And he said, oh, I don't let anybody in their 60s reassume their house. I'm like, so you're telling me if she asked you to reassume the house? He goes, yeah, I wouldn't have done it. I would have made her let it go because she didn't need to worry about that debt. I said, well, what about her family and the legacy she was trying to leave to her kids and her grandkids? And he said, well, that doesn't really matter. And this dude used to be the bankruptcy trustee for our area. Like, he knows what he's doing. So I was angry, a lot angry. But I couldn't do anything about that. So back to the mortgage company, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. COVID, payment gets behind, blah, blah, blah. So enters what I thought was an answer for that, because I knew we could not, our credit was not where we needed it to be. So when you get behind on your payments, you go into the pre-foreclosure, whatever that is. People start coming out of the woodwork, at least here in the States, to offer to buy your house, to help you, to buy it for cash, all these things. And I didn't want to sell it. I mean, I really, really wanted to keep it. And so this one investor happened to catch me on a good day, I guess, because most of them I told to take a hike. I didn't want to deal with them. So he caught me at one of those points where I was frustrated and I was worried. The loan company was now saying they were calling in the whole loan because of the bankruptcy. They didn't even care that it was just behind a few months or whatever. They just wanted it all. And all of it wasn't that much. I mean, the house was worth, I don't know, 170,000 and we owed less, right around 100,000. I mean, it wasn't a lot. So I knew there was equity to be had. So I knew it was worth fighting for. But I didn't have any more money between her death and her not having an estate. I mean, a trust, which is another thing. Please look into if you do not have one and you don't have one for your parents. Wills and trusts, I don't care where you live. I have a feeling they are definitely needed. They will avoid all of the problems that we were having in the court. Long story short on that is this investor walks in, tells me his history. I tell him my story, which I probably shouldn't have, but I did. I was having one of those emotional moments and he called. And I just let him have all of it, like all of it. And I was like, okay, well, maybe God sent this guy. Maybe he really did. And I mean, I had met so many investors, and I had one guy try to buy the house, and then he was going to just lowball it. And I was like, no. I mean, I ended up closing that deal. And then I had a real estate agent try to sell it for us, short sale it, and it just nothing was working out. And so this guy walks in and he's got this third party that supposedly can help you like negotiate out of foreclosure. And I just had this really bad feeling in my gut. I mean, it would not leave. And I ended up signing this paper that he could talk on my behalf, but I couldn't sleep at night. And this was like 3 years ago. And so I was like, you know what? No, I called the mortgage company. I sent a letter saying, don't let anybody talk on my behalf. I rescind whatever that was I signed. I think it was a limited power of attorney. Now I know, but I just canceled it. I canceled them. I said, no. And they said, you know, you're going to lose the house. I said, well, whatever happens, happens. But I just went back to dealing with the mortgage company and trying to talk to them. And they kept telling me what to do and how to do it. And so, but at some point during that process, I got kicked out as the administrator of the estate because some judge decided that he didn't like that I was doing this on my own. I mean, I talked to an attorney and they said that's exactly what happened. He didn't like you were doing it on your own. He wanted you to have representation. He didn't like, and I was like, can they really do that? Is our system so broken? They're like, yeah, he really can. So I was like, fine, I'm not the administrator. I'm not responsible. I'm gonna live here till they kick me out. I mean, that really was my attitude. And it was still during the whole, they couldn't kick you out anyways. Mm-hmm. So just go on with my life and put my head in the sand. Not a good thing to do, but it's what I did. And so I wasn't on the pre-foreclosure list at that time, but I was on some list that people knew what was behind. So then I got on in October of 2021. October of 2022, sorry. We were on the list, but I didn't know this. I'd been talking to the mortgage company every week, sending them probate papers or whatever papers I needed to create, send them a copy, finally found a will, send them a copy of that, but that didn't matter because it hadn't been probated anyways. So this guy pulls up in front of my house one day and I'm leaving and I'm like, can I help you? And he's like, are you the resident? I'm like, yeah. And he goes, the sheriff's coming to lock you out. I'm like, excuse me? He's like, yeah, he's going to come chain that door and you're going to lose everything. And he was an ass. I mean, a complete ass. And of course, I acted like it didn't bother me at the time. And I'm like, I'm sure you're wrong. I've been talking to the mortgage company, but I got in my car and I was stressed. I was on my way to a network meeting, as a matter of fact. And I was panicking. And I drove down the road about 20 minutes and I was trying to talk to my husband and I was just in between tears and panic and I didn't know what to do. I mean, this is my autistic son's home. It's our home. All these things kept going through my head. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, what are we going to do? We don't have a plan B. This is the only plan. And I'd been praying all that time and, all of that. But again, you have to do your part. And I wasn't doing my part. I didn't know my part, but I wasn't doing my part. So within 20 or 30 minutes after that guy shows up, this investor calls. And I'm like, God, that's really funny that 20 minutes ago, and then this guy calls. And so this investor tells me it's a coincidence, but he probably saw it on the same list as the other guy. And I was like, okay, whatever. And then I thought in my head, surely God sent this guy back. This is the second chance to save the house. And so I told him, I said, look, I told you last time, if it got to this point, you could buy the house. I told you that. I'll keep my word. And so he said, well, I want to help you keep it if you still want to rent it. And I'm like, absolutely, we'll rent it. Will you let us buy it back? And so through the process, he did decide to let us buy it back. It was a lot more than I wanted to buy it back for, but because it was a lot more than was going to be paid for it. But I was like, okay, so we're on the foreclosure day. We're back and forth with the mortgage company until that day. We're trying to get a hold of the foreclosure attorneys that day. I'm not sure we're going to save the house. Literally an hour before the sale, we finally get on a 3-way call and they finally stopped the foreclosure 1 hour before the house was going up for sale. And I was like, okay, all right. So pressure off. Well, I didn't think anything about it. I already agreed to sell the guy the house. I knew that's what was going to happen. I knew we were going to have to pay rent. So he asked me, how much rent can you afford? And I'm trusting him. And I still trust him to a point. I don't want to make him seem like a bad dude. Some of this is just stuff I've learned along the way. And some of it's red flags I should have seen, like that guy showing up and then this guy calling me right out. It's just coincidental, I'm sure, but it's too coincidental. Anyway, and we're still in the process with this gentleman. So I definitely don't want to, I appreciate the fact we're still in the house. Let me just say that. So anyway, we stopped the sale and I don't worry about it. And then he's like, we got to get the contracts and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, whatever, just send them to me. And I know nothing about real estate. And so he's kind of like representing me and him, which is kind of not okay. I found out
That's
recently.
illegal.
Yeah. So I didn't know that at the time. So he's walking me through this, but he's the only liaison I have in this, which shouldn't have been. And I don't know that he did that out of meanness. I mean, I really believe he has a good heart. He is a veteran and he served in public service. And I do believe he has a good heart. I just also think some dollar signs may have, seen the value that had gone up in COVID because the house went up significantly, like all of them. I just think he probably jumped too soon to help because he said he was training. He had been doing investing in another state under a 7-figure investor. So it wasn't his money. So our deal was going to be his first money deal. As far if he told me the truth, our deal was going to be the first one. So I think he jumped too soon. I think he got emotionally caught up in it and maybe he spent too much money up front to I get that. But of course, most guys aren't going to say that. That's not what they're going to say. So anyway, him and his partner, we finally get a closing date and then it has an ice storm in Oklahoma. And I'm like, I'm not driving. And they wanted us to drive an hour. At the last minute, this is another red flag, guys. If people change title companies on you at the last minute, question that. Question the current company as to why you're changing. I didn't. And I still probably could, but at this point, it's kind of like moved. So they moved it to a company in another part of our state. And we were going to drive an hour. Well, an hour in the ice did not make me happy. We don't have ice in Oklahoma like you guys do, Dorothy. So we don't know how to function when it gets icy. We like to just stay home and have some hot chocolate. Anyway, so he calls and he's like, you have to go. And I'm like, I'm not going. Like, we'll go Thursday. It's only supposed to, our ice doesn't last long. So it's only supposed to be icy until Thursday. So he's just acting really nervous. And then I'm like, why is he so nervous? And it didn't occur to me at the time. But I guess I could have walked away at that point because I hadn't signed anything. So I get why he was nervous. But I also wasn't going to go back on my word. I said, I'm going to work on my credit. I'm going to buy it back within a year. That's what I said. And I'm very much like to keep my word. And
right. Can I just interject? Not a lot of people are. So just to interject that, because not a lot of people say a lot, but they don't do it. So
no, and that's this investor up to that point had kept his word with me. So I wanted to be honorable with that. And he always says he keeps his word. And I haven't, necessarily seen that he hasn't. So again, that's just something that I think he and I connected on. Anyway, but going through this process, we go, and I don't know, you've obviously bought a house. You probably know how this is supposed to go. He's on one side of the table with his partner, the title person, and then us. I know nothing. Okay. I know nothing. We should have taken someone with us. We're reading these documents like we know what we're reading, but really they're just shoving them at us. They're just fast. We signed it like 30 papers in like 5 minutes and it was done. Okay, it's done. Great. Pay the rent. He had asked me how much the rent was going to be. And then he set it $350 higher. And I was like, okay, awesome. So I knew nothing about what I'm about to explain in a minute. I just was like, okay, rent's expensive. It is what it is. God will make it work out. And we've never been late. We paid on the first every single month. But he's also never been a landlord. So he has the tendency to call on the 20th or the 24th and say, can I have the rent? No, you can have it on the first. But I think that's part of the fact that he's not typically a landlord. He's typically one who buys and flips or buys, fixes up and, so I just don't think that's in his makeup. And again, if we were his true first deal, I get it 100%. And up to that point, I'd seen some red flags, whereas if I tried to question anything, he did get a little bit frustrated. But I also know military background and different things. So I'm like, okay, I'm trying to take into consideration personalities and all of that, but probably ignoring too much. So I tell people, go with your gut. Like my gut still wasn't happy, but I was in so much fear, honestly, that fear was running my life. 100%. And it was running me in more than one area, but I didn't realize that's what it was at the time. Honestly, I didn't realize that till much later. So process through, we get our credit up sometime in the summer. We work with the same lender like the whole time. She was helping me. She's a friend of mine. She's helping me figure out how to get through this process. So, I mean, we were kind of working with her, but there was nothing she could do until we got her credit up. There just wasn't. So she recommended a credit company. This is another thing I tell people to be really careful about. And this company may have been completely legit, but it wasn't a good fit for us. They never sent me anything to do. They never told me what to do. And they weren't having, we were 3 or 4 months in, I was paying them, but they weren't getting anything off our credit. And see, I had already been repairing our credit on my own for a while. So I was like, the money I've been paying you guys, I could have paid off a few more debts. So we ended that contract and we just started doing it on my own. And so by, I think it was July, I called the investor. I said, hey, my credit's up. I got a pre-approval. I think maybe he thought it was an approval. And I said, so we're on the right direction. He's like, okay, maybe we'll close next month. I'm like, well, I don't know. I mean, I have no idea. So we were set to close August 31st. Well, something happened and no one can tell us, not the credit bureau, not my lender, certainly not me. Scott's credit tanked 70 points the day they went to check it. And I'm like, great. We have no idea why, so we don't know what to fix. So here's the investor who thinks he's going to sell this house on the 31st. So he's probably, if I'm thinking right, he's probably made other investments thinking this one's going to be off the plate. So he gets obviously, frustrated. I get that. But he never says anything. And we talk periodically through text. So as far as I know, we're good. Then it takes like October-ish to get the credit back up. So we're going to close again in November. And something happened with the loan. I don't remember what happened this time, but we couldn't close again. And I'm getting frustrated. I'm like, what is going on? And so my lender's like, just don't panic. This happens sometimes. We're just going to change lenders or whatever, and we'll go from there. So we finally got our credit back up, but our lease was technically up in February because we signed a 1-year buyback lease. Right. So he's starting to give me hints that maybe he's not going to, let us lease. But he had told me we could be renters for life. Like in my living room, when they came over to see the house or whatever, they said, you guys can rent for life if that's what needs to happen. So I legitimately feel like he does want us to keep the house. But half of me feels like he's got himself into some sort of bind where the money wouldn't be a bad thing, and he did tell me in one text, it is just business. So, trying not to put my own feelings in it. But during this time span, especially since August, I had the forms looked at our sale because my mom's name is still on the mortgage for the house that I sold them. It's never been paid off. So that to me was odd. And so, yeah, see, that's exactly. So I sent it to a friend who's an attorney and I said, will you look at this and tell me what the heck I got myself into? And she's like, Dawn, I've seen investor deals like this. She said, we do some of these things because apparently they put the house after I sold it to them into a trust. Well, it's not a trust in their name necessarily. It may even be a trust in my name with the address. It's just the address. That's who I pay the rent to every month is the address of the house, which I don't care. That doesn't matter to me. I don't care. But apparently I signed another one of those forms that lets them act as me to talk to the mortgage company. So yes, they've been paying the payment, but the mortgage never been paid off. Well, I closed the estate because that was one of the things, and this is one of the things you guys should be aware of. Some of these investors will offer to pay probate costs so that they can make sure, and he did. He paid them and then rolled it into the price of the house, which I was okay with. But we closed the estate because it was sold. Well, then I got to thinking, and I'm really one of those weird people that likes to be above board. I don't like to do shady shit. I just don't.
Nothing wrong with that, friend. Nothing wrong at all.
I just don't, especially with things like this. Anyway, so, and I'm not saying it's shady. It just seems shady to me. So I start doing some investigation when the attorney says it's legal enough. That's not, she said, but
wait a minute, is it legal or not? That's what I would say.
Enough that they can get away with it because what happened when I signed it over is they have the deed to the house now. So regardless if they ever pay the mortgage off, I already gave them the deed. Now, in Oklahoma, because of the way the deeds go, they could never sell the house again until they pay the first loan off, because the loan is first on the title or whatever. So, I mean, there is some sort of resiliency there. But like I said, I've learned a lot about the law. So, and then she told me it was illegal the way, we should have had another representative. Anyway, so she educated me on what should have happened, how it should have went. My lender was trying to tell me this all along, but she's obviously, as a lender, she's limited in what she can say. She's really not supposed to deal. I didn't also know this, that she's really not supposed to deal with the seller. I'm supposed to deal with the seller or my agent, but she's been nice enough to talk to them as well. Mm-hmm. And they've been frustrated with her and not always super nice, but honestly, she's done everything she can for me. So I'm just like, and so I offered 2 weeks ago when things got heated. I said, look, let's just sit down face to face. I'm like, let's just sit down and talk face to face, because you think we're obviously lying or scheming or something. And I'm confused as to why, because we talk on text all the time, but like I'm talking to him and she's talking to the partner. I'm like, let's just all sit down. Like that way we can. And he's like, there's no need to sit down. I'm like, okay. And he's like, you want the house. We want you to have the house, period. Okay. Yeah, that's true. So I didn't worry about it. So then I get a notice, and I don't think he even realizes this. So I guess when he sees this, he'll realize this. On Saturday, I get a notice that I'm getting a FedEx package, and from the lender. Well, I have a membership with FedEx that it tells me where things come from and what the address is when someone sends it. Like as soon as they make a label, I get an email if it has my address on it. Cool feature. That way you don't have to worry about the scams on the internet, because if it's not in your account, you don't have to worry about it. So I'm like, why is he sending me papers? But the lease was up. So I'm like, okay, it's either a notice to vacate or a rent increase. Because he had texted me and said, house insurance is going up. I said, I do know that, Oklahoma, because of all our storms, we're ranked number 1 highest in the state for house and auto insurance now. And it's going up like 20 to 30% this year. Yeah, it's significant. So my problem with that is, since I know how much the payment is, and I know the payment went up a little, the rent was still more than enough to cover that. But I'm not a business. I'm not saying he doesn't deserve to make a profit. But his comments to me are, he's not making a profit. And I'm like, how? But anyway, regardless. So I put a little Facebook post out there. I've been asking people to pray for us and walking them through the journey with me, because I have always thought, and I know you kind of feel like this too, we don't go through things for no reason. Like we either go through them to help someone or educate someone or just to learn something. And I want to grow and I want to learn. And God has definitely done that. I have grown. I have learned how to not let my emotions and my mouth run wild in this, because I could be super angry, right? I could be, but it's not going to serve any purpose. It's not going to get anybody anywhere. And honestly, I walked into this. I didn't, maybe I was deceived a little bit, but it wasn't like, it was probably from not having knowledge. It was not necessarily by any person.
Knowledge is power.
It is. And I didn't have any power, and I let fear run me. And I'm telling you, if you have any fear in your life, please deal with it, because until I got free of that, and that was only a couple of months ago, I started getting free of that. Until you're fully delivered and free of fear, you don't realize how many decisions it's affecting in your life. And it was affecting my entire life. I mean, it was messing up relationships. It was messing up my business. I mean, a lot of stuff. So I'm very grateful for that. But in going through all this stuff with the attorney, and then I had a second attorney team look at it, and he also told me, Dawn, I've never seen anything like this before. I was like, okay, so something's weird here. So I start kind of looking into it. Someone told me, look up, actually, I was sleeping, dead asleep. After the attorney told me it was legal enough, my friend, I was like, okay, God, you told me to ask her. She said it's legal enough. I'm putting it to bed. I'm not going to worry about this anymore. Like, you take care of it. I'm just going to walk this out, fix my credit. Let's buy the house. That will fix all of this. So we got our credit up. We got the loan ready. And now we're waiting on down payment assistance. We are literally $5,500 away from owning this house, because that's the 3.5% down payment. But I don't have $5,500 in the bank because, again, I'm kind of been in the past a financial idiot. I'm better now. But in fixing things, it's cost all the money. And, there have been costs and things along the way. So
Yeah.
I don't have $5,000 in the bank. I wish I did, because then this whole thing would have been closed probably last week. But we do qualify possibly for down payment assistance from 2 different places. The first place has taken a month to get back with us. And it's just because they're the only place in Oklahoma that does it, and they're busy. And there's one poor lady that does it. So she's trying to
shout out to that lady.
And the thing is, you have to make under a certain amount of money to qualify for this, but yet I need to make over a certain amount of money to qualify for the loan. So it's this really, and Scott's on the loan, but they make me be on the down payment assistance. And I'm like, that's so federal government of the United States. Like, that's so backwards. But anyway, so in the first place, I'm praying to make less money to qualify for the down payment, but whatever. I'm like, God, handle it. So she was supposed to get back with me today. I haven't heard from her, or Friday, and she didn't call me Friday. So I wake up, stone cold, wake up in the middle of the night after my friend told me that. And God's like, look up foreclosure rescue scam. And I'm like, I've never even heard of that. So I look it up in the middle of the night, and I'm like jaw dropped, because it starts explaining. Remember the first time I said he had a third party that was going to handle the foreclosure for us? That's the top scam in the United States, according to the FBI.
Oh.
Yeah. And I don't think he was trying to scam me. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying, since he trained under a different person in a different state, they may have been allowed to do different things than you can do here. Because the one red flag I had is he sent me a YouTube video when he started talking about this deal. And he said, here, in case anybody tells you this is illegal. Why would you do that?
Why would you do that?
So, and then the other thing is, like, not wanting me to talk to the mortgage company, but the mortgage had never been paid off. I mean, at first I thought, okay, it's going to take him a month or so to put the funds together. I didn't worry about it. I really do trust people until I guess I get a reason not to. And so I'm reading through these foreclosure scams, and I have the link. If anybody wants it, you can email me, or message me. But common scams are the third party scam, the rent to re-own scam. The scammer explains to the troubled homeowner that we need to surrender the property title to him or the rescue company, and then we rent the property back to you. They promise to sell it back to us when we're financially stable, but the rent is often unaffordable, so the scammer evicts the renter. Well, I truly think when they set the rent the way they did, they didn't expect us to be able to afford it. I really, truly believe they expected us to fail. And I just don't think we did. So I think it kind of threw them off. And then I think they were kind of excited when we got approved for a loan. I think they were kind of excited that we're going to get to do this, because, I mean, they've helped us in this. So obviously it's going to be something they can tout as they help somebody get the house back, right? And that's what I want them to be able to tout. Because another message he told me was like, he's worried about his reputation. And I'm like, why? I've never said anything. So just these little things, that keep adding up.
Maybe he's insecure. Maybe he's
he's just
being
really
the first time, he doesn't know when he's just truly
and this is a weird deal. I mean, it's obviously a weird deal. If we change title companies at the last minute, either he knows or he doesn't know, or he got into something he didn't mean to get into, whatever. Like I said, I don't have any ill feelings. Anyway, so there's partial interest bankruptcy schemes. There's internet and phone schemes. So there's like 6 or 7 top schemes, but 2 of them are ones that are really similar to what we're doing. None of them ever they do talk about the loan never being paid off, but not enough to make me think, okay, that's for sure what I'm involved in. But again, I don't know. I mean, all I know is we're supposed to be able to buy the house back. We have a loan. We just need down payment assistance. And hopefully by the end of this month, God will provide that, and we will close this thing, and we will successfully have navigated this. But please get a trust. Please get a will. Please let an attorney help you, even if you have to find one that takes payments and it takes a long time to do the probate. Please have life insurance, and they make policies that actually pay off your house when you pass away, and you can give it to your kids if it's in your will, and they will never have to lose it. Please just be smart. And then please protect your credit, because even in this crazy world, it does matter. I mean, a lot of us my age, we didn't grow up knowing anything about credit. We just barely survived. I mean, our parents are the ones that sent us outside from sun up to sundown. I mean, they didn't worry about us, right? Because we lived in a different world. So we weren't taught financial skills. I think we teach them a little bit better now, but I don't think we teach them enough. And then older people, they get scammed all the time, maybe not on their house, but maybe on their house, maybe on, like, my mom almost got scammed kind of by a bankruptcy attorney because he talked her into, claiming her house. And really, she only had like $12,000 worth of debt. She could have just, I mean, it's America. We don't have debtor's prison. She could have just made small payments, but for some reason that stressed her out enough that she wanted to file bankruptcy. So don't do those things without good advice. Pray, be wise. I mean, and when this is all finished, I will fully, disclose everything. But again, I have no ill feelings. I'm very grateful for our investor. I do pray that he is blessed because he has helped us stay here. Even if someone comes to you and they have wrong motives, God can still turn that around in your favor, right? Like, he allows things to grow you. He allows things to move you forward. And I know in a prayer call over 3 years ago, there was 3 of us on the line, and I hadn't told anybody what God had told me about the house because I was just keeping it quiet. And one of the girls comes on and said, "This is what God said. He said, you're going to get the house, except you're going to get 2 houses and they're going to be debt free." And this is the verse, Philippians 4:19-20. And that is verbatim what God had told me in my quiet spirit somewhere. I probably have a journal on it. So I said, that is exactly what he told me. She said, then that's it. That's our witness. And that's what we're going to stand on. So we've been standing on that, and we will continue to stand on that. But I think I needed a lot of this because had I not walked through this, I wouldn't know what I know now. And I do intend to go work. I've now, God's weirdly connected me with some people at our state capitol. They're doing worship and prayer there. So I'm able to kind of meet people and do things. And I really hate politics, to be honest with you. It's like the last place I want to be. But because of a situation in our family, which Dorothy knows, and then because of this situation, we need some laws changed. Like, there needs to be some awareness. So I'm going to get to tell my story there at some point, and work maybe with like the Attorney General or someone to hopefully get some rules changed and some awareness. Because if the FBI is looking into this, there's got to be other places that this is happening. And with COVID and how many people did get behind and then got all that free help from the US government, but now don't, we're coming back into a season of, there's going to be an awful lot of people that are going to be losing their houses because they literally can't afford them. And the price of everything's gone up. So there's going to be a lot more of these scammers out there. And the more they do it and get away with it, the more they're going to do it. And like I said, I am not in any way saying that's what our deal is. It just has a lot of similarities. And coincidences are coincidences. The guy coming to my door and then the investor calling me. I mean, I'm not reading anything into it that's not there. However, I do have discernment, and God has showed me some things, and I stand on that. But that's my story, and that was a long one, and I apologize.
Hey, it said so much. There was I had a question, and then it like kind of disappeared.
It's a lot.
It's I think you're right. Like, people need to know, and a lot of people don't have wills. They don't have trusts. As a matter of fact, we bought our house. We signed off on our house in February, and we didn't get possession until April. Well, by April, the COVID had hit. So we literally, I don't even know what my attorney looks like.
Yeah.
At that time, we were told to show up at his address, his home address. He had the window open. He had our packages in the mailbox. My husband and I literally opened the mailbox, took out our papers, read the papers. Of course, no,
Right.
Our attorney would not come outside, not even with
Right.
a mask or anything.
Right.
Basically witnessed us sign our mortgage, our title to our house on the hood of our car. Gave him his copy back in the mailbox. We got our keys and we took off. So I literally have no idea who my attorney is.
Right.
I trusted my real estate agent. So
Right.
shout out to Andrew McLeod of Jump Realty here in Windsor, Ontario. Because his office uses that attorney. But if he walked up to me and on the sidewalk, I would have no clue who he is.
Yeah. Right. And that's the thing. We all have been through that. And then I think there was fear involved in that. And I probably had more fear than I realized. But going through where you're almost losing your home and you still, because I carried, like we talked about before, I carried a lot of false responsibility from years of trauma and stuff. So I felt 100% responsible. If we lost this house, it would be my fault. Now, I've since had that conversation with my husband and the kids, all that. But I felt, and I think sometimes there's situations where you get yourself into it and you can be preyed upon. I'm not saying we were at all, but I'm saying that it's very possible that it happens. And since hearing that he's done a couple other deals like this, I just don't think this is the way to go. And I hope the other deals are much more above board. I guess I'll feel better once we sign the papers at the closing table and my lender says we're for sure done. He did text me today and tell me it is a rent increase that he's sending me. I think he saw my Facebook post and realized that, oh, she knows it's coming. So he did say it's a rent increase. I'm not shocked. Like I said, he had already told me the insurance was going up. I don't know how much of a rent increase, but we were already at the top of our budget. So I really, really need the $5,500 to show up so we can close this thing. We're so close. Like I said, there was another paper in the deal that apparently sometime during COVID, somebody put a lien on the house that because of some money I owed from the past. And usually when you buy a house, you assume all that stuff. But apparently I signed a paper that said I would pay it back or he would put it into the price of the house. Well, he's already given us a price for the house. So the attorney said, don't worry about it. He's already priced the house. That means he's, said he's going to take care of it. So that would be the only other small thing I think could hold us up. But my lender's aware of it and she's prepared to tell him, dude, you already signed the papers to the house. So, but, and like I said, he's probably a very honorable person and he'll be hopefully just as excited as we are when we close on it. And I can come back and tell y'all how wonderful it was and to have a real closing and know how it's really supposed to go. And it may be that quick and that easy. I don't know. Sounds like yours was pretty easy too. You just showed up and signed some papers.
Showed up in the driveway, signed the papers, took the keys, and it was our house.
But I'm not driving back to an hour away. I told my lender, I said, we don't have to drive back there because he really wants us to use the same title company. And I'm like, I don't know why, but whatever. And she said, it's up to you. I said, well, I don't have a title company that I like, so I don't care. But they're an hour away. And I said, I'm not driving there. She said, no, they can come to our office. We have a room. They can drive here. So I'm like, I'm the buyer. Surely I can sign the papers here instead of going up there. So, and God forbid something would go awry. Then I just really know I've been praying through this whole process. The other thing I've been sharing with people is, we always want what we want. And sometimes when we pray what we want. But what I've realized watching these situations in the last year of my life is my want is skewed by my emotions. God's will is for my best interest. So what I've been praying is it will be God's will that whatever happens, happens. Because if that's true, that means every promise in the Bible is true, that it'll be better than I can ask for, dream of, or imagine. And I can stand on the fact that he told us we were going to get the house. That's absolutely okay. But I also need to be aware that it has to be God's will, God's way, so that it's not a mess. I mean, my mom, God love her, she loved God, but she obviously didn't seek him or she would have had better things in order. I really believe that. So wills and trusts, 100%. Probates. I mean, in most states, I think, at least here, and I'm sure in most states and countries, you need something. I think if the will has been entered into the county clerk's office, you may be able to skip probate, but I think it has to be done before the person passes away. And that may be different state to state. So just look into it in your area. Get all your ducks in a row prior to. It's not morbid to get life insurance. It's not morbid to get your stuff in line. It's just smart. And it leaves your kid's life a lot easier, because I've literally fought that estate mess for 6 years because of the house and my brother trying to find him, and the investor did find him. And, anyway, because he had to sign off that I could even sell the house, even though he signed a document saying he didn't want anything. The court has to have specific documents. So thanks for letting me share. And I'm sharing as often as possible. There's a lady here locally that has a nationally syndicated real estate show. And she's got a network, I guess, kind of like Roku. She's on one of those. And so she said, I said, when it's all over, I would love to get on. So
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, making people aware. You don't know what you don't know,
right.
and um, I definitely I've had life insurance since I was well. My parents put life insurance on us as kids, and then
Yep.
at the age of I think 25, got my own.
Yeah.
Um, and just kept that up, and
Well,
that
luckily, Scott has the life insurance on us through his job right now, but we need a separate policy because those policies end if you either have to pay for them or they end if you lose the job. So we
yeah.
really need to get a separate policy. And I figure the best way to do that is just win the house. We'll just get a policy that's the credit mortgage type thing. But there's also a lot of false ones out there about that. Make sure you get something legitimate. But I have a good friend that sells life insurance, so she can help me with that. That's one of the things coming on Dorothy's show and getting in Dorothy's circle is you get to connect with people because that's what she does. So that's one of the
Well,
most amazing things.
funny that you said that because I just networked with a guy today that is
Huh?
out of Florida, but that's what he does too. So
Awesome.
I could connect you to, and at least you could talk to
Awesome.
him.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was really rubbing it in that it's 80 degrees and he's wearing shorts in Florida. So thank you
Well,
for
we
it.
were yesterday, but today it's 47. So
It was snowing here today, for God's sakes.
it snowed in Kansas last week, like it's right above me. Oklahoma, and I don't know. Our weather's just jacked. I don't know.
But yeah, remind me when we get off air, and I'll
Yeah.
connect you with Brad
Absolutely.
after.
Absolutely.
But it's funny. Just had that conversation today.
Yeah. Yeah. But anyway, so thank you for having me on. Thank you for letting me share my story. Guys, sometimes we just, it does. There is a Bible verse that says we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. It's in Revelations. And I really believe that fear will keep you from telling your story. And if you just tell your story, God will use it for however he's going to use it. But it's just up to us to be bold enough to get out there and tell our story. Dorothy's book tells a lot of her story. You guys get it. It's amazing. And you will not regret getting it. And then I know she's doing some private one-on-one coaching now. So you should totally connect with her for that because she's totally a blessing to have in your life.
Oh, well, thank you.
You're
Well,
welcome.
and that's why I started Operation Hope, helping
Yeah.
other people evolve,
Right.
because we live in fear, we live in hopelessness, we live in like, holy shit, what's next? And instead of trust, knowing, and believing even in yourself, which is important.
Right. And you can't believe in, I don't think I truly could believe in God until I believed in me because he's supposed to live in me. And I say that. So if I'm not believing in me, I'm not even believing in him because he lives in here. So
Right.
it is so connected.
It is totally connected. And, I get you. I lived in fear for a lot of years, and I'm not saying I don't have fearful moments,
Right.
but I've learned to wait a minute, stop, breathe, take 10 deep breaths, allow myself to feel it, and then go, okay, what's the truth to that? Because, we're believing the lie instead of believing the truth.
Absolutely.
So yeah. No, and sometimes it's easier said than done. I get it. When you're walking through shitstorm after shitstorm after shitstorm, it's easy to fall into that trap, but it's also,
I think it's testing ground. I think it's why the Israelites spent so many years going around what could have been an 11-day walk or something. But it's testing ground. And it's once you finally decide to get tired of the storm. Like, I'm done. I want to do my part. Yes, there's always going to be troubles. There's always going to be trials, but I want to weather them better. I want to not let it take me out, not be double-minded, not let me wipe me out, put me in bed with anxiety or whatever. And I didn't realize how much this had taken from me, how much this whole process. I mean, I'm probably lucky I didn't have to go to the hospital a couple times. I mean, my anxiety and depression was off the charts and I didn't see it till it was over. And so many people don't. So the other thing I know Dorothy and I both agree on is if you are in a place where it's as dark and you don't understand it and you think, just reach out to someone, reach out to me, reach out to her, reach out to someone in your life because we lose way too many people to the darkness.
136 per day.
That's right. And we talk about veterans, which we should, but it's everybody. It's those people who you think have it all together. And then suddenly
as somebody who has lost a family member to suicide, there are definitely things to watch out for. When they change their moods, when they
Yeah.
change, even because people who say when they talk about it they'll never do it. That's bullshit.
It is. It's
You
complete bullshit.
trust me. I've had three in my.
Sometimes they talk about it so you'll intervene because they really want
Yes.
someone to help them. It's
Yeah.
really a sign of crying out a lot of times.
100%. 100%. And then if they go into like a seclusion type thing,
Absolutely. Isolation.
look out for that. And don't try and do it. Like if you really think that they are in danger, just call 911, get them the help. They'll be pissed off at you, but would you rather them be pissed off at you or go to their funeral?
That's right.
In my opinion, that's who I am. I'm assist trained too, and that's one of the things they tell you. Like, definitely ask them what their plans are. And if you think they are in danger, then you get them help right away.
We did that at crisis intervention training in our counseling classes, so I have that as well. And they will be mad, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay.
I'd rather you be mad at me and alive.
I'd rather see you when you're on the other side of this than on the other side when we both go somewhere.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I don't think I could have changed anything for my uncle. I really don't. He had his mind set up, and he had help before, but it's and I don't blame myself. I mean, there was decades that I did, but it's because what could I have done differently?
We worked for a gentleman who was a veteran and struggled with drugs, and I knew he was struggling with drugs again. We'd had that conversation. I was the first one to see it. I knew he was doing it, and we talked about it. And then he ended up getting in a fight with someone he knew would kill him because they were trained to kill him if he fought with them. So he basically committed suicide by another person. I struggled for the first couple of weeks with that whole thing. Like you just said, did I do enough? But honestly, in that situation, his drugs were too powerful. So it wouldn't have mattered. He had been to rehab 8 times, and you can't make someone stay in rehab if they don't want to be there. But for sure with the isolation thing, don't overlook it. And maybe we should have called someone regardless, that you can look back and think that whether he would have won or not. But it was 8 months after we were out of the picture before he, died. But it still makes me really, really more aware of everyone around me. And like I even asked one of my kids the other day, they're amazing and they're doing amazing, but they're drinking more than I would like them to drink as a mom, which, whatever. But I finally asked them, I was like, can you live without that? And they were not thrilled at all. But at the same time, I would rather ask that than them get a DUI or get an accident or get to the point where they're not okay, and at least by asking, they know they can come back to me and say, no, I'm not okay,
or just being a smart ass just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Yeah. Well, and we have that whole smart ass thing in our family. So, but I was dead serious when I looked at them and I said, look, I need to know 100% because we were going somewhere and they were going to stop at the liquor store on the way to the somewhere. And I was like, is it really that necessary before we go watch a child play a game that we pregame? I'm not sure that makes sense to me, but anyway, but when you stuff your emotions and this person does stuff their emotions, then you medicate.
I get that. I have family members that do the same thing.
I totally get it. Yep.
But
thankfully I have, and thankfully we have, well, never one each other, but we have people in our life that will call us on our crap. Mm-hmm. And if you don't have people in your life that'll call you on your crap, I highly suggest you find some.
100%. Well, now let's bring this topic up. So let's go to the fundamentals.
Oh yeah. Let's do that.
The fundamentals. So, Dawn, what are your 3 fundamentals?
Oh, goodness gracious. I was really trying to work on this today. And number 1, fun is a fundamental for me.
Right.
Because if I don't have fun, then I am going to burn out. I am going to quit. I have that creative brain. So if I don't allow myself what I've been doing lately for fun in my fundamental is I've been going to our local library systems now have a room called a maker space. And they have all these things in there you can use, like 3D printers and Cricut machines and embroidery machines. And it's free. And all you do, and they even have supplies. I mean, I take my own, but so I've been doing that. I've been like making t-shirts and things, just having that creative space, because I find that if I don't, then I burn my candle at both ends, and then I'm done. So fun is definitely a fundamental for me. Some of my other fundamentals for me are being honest, being raw, and being real. That kind of all is one, but I don't think there's any, I just think there's no benefit to BS. I just don't. We've had enough of it, either from the government level to you could go down from there, and we're all tired of it, and we're tired of the nonsense, and we're tired of the lies. So let's stop perpetrating them. Let's at least be ones that are like, look, like when I was sharing this whole thing on Facebook, when God told me to go live with the house thing, I was like, what is the purpose in that other than telling people I'm a complete idiot and this is what I got myself into? Which fine, whatever. But so I've been making updates every couple days, and I've been pleasantly surprised that most people have kept it, they haven't come to me and said exactly what they think, I don't think, but it's helping people. And that's it. That's my other thing is serving. I mean, whether it be, we did foster care, mission stuff. My husband's been overseas. We do local mission work. I have a ministry I started in the name of my mom, in the honor of my mom, because someone helped her go to nursing school. So eventually we'll help people go to nursing school. But right now it's community needs. We've paid electric bills. We've done, different things like that. So those are my fundamentals: serving, having fun, and then being real.
Love, love, love all of that. And, that is basically what the premise of this show is all about. So I love all of that. Fun, and everybody says fun is in the eye of the beholder. So what you think is fun and what I think is fun, maybe somebody else won't. So I love that you said that first, because I don't know about you, but a lot of people lately have not been having fun. And that is part of people being depressed and down and things like that. So find your fun. As a matter of fact, if you're watching this on the replay, because we're just about done, if you're watching this on the replay, put in the comments what your fun is.
Yeah.
We would love to hear from you. And thank you so much, Dawn, for being real, raw, and authentic, and sharing your story, because it is going to help somebody for sure. If not, like, people don't know. We don't know what we don't know. And we don't need we're not meant to know everything. That's why there's different professions and different things out there. So just, get on board with somebody who knows, and just ask them. And like Dawn said, get your will, get your trust in order, get your life insurance if you don't have any life insurance. And if that is something that you need and you're in the United States, I connected with an amazing guy today. So I'll get you connected. Message me if you want that information. I will definitely connect you. So with that, guys, be unstoppable in all that you do. And for our last sponsor of today's show, if you are looking for community, if you're a small business owner, solopreneur, and you are trying to go it alone, you don't have to go it alone. We at the Kimbra, I am a member of the Kimbra. If you want to bend time, help more people, connect with more people, and make more money, then definitely go over to the Kimbra, get your membership today. Tell them Dorothy sent you, and we'll see you. They have an amazing event called the Money Whisperer. Then they have Rainmaker and then Time Bender. So if you missed last week's Power Half Hour with Kira, the co-founder, you definitely got to go check that out. That lady's amazing. Answer all your questions, and we'll see you at the top. With that, be unstoppable in all that you do. Go check out our YouTube channel, subscribe. Go check us out on Roku, Unstoppable Overcomers as well. And don't forget, this week we start a new show called A Journey in Boots, from Why can't I say it?
Tragedy?
No. Trauma. Trauma.
Okay.
I'm not trauma, just trying to remember. But check us out Thursday nights at 7. Bye for now.
Bye.